Hey guys, McCabe here. In this video I'm going to show you how I use the transform tool, Pathfinder, and a little bit of math to create some more complicated shapes in Illustrator. For this demonstration we're going to be creating a gear. Now a gear isn't necessarily super complicated. However, what I'm hoping you take away from this isn't the technical ability to create a gear, but rather that you might glean some of the more advanced techniques and use them creatively to help you solve your own unique problems. Alright, to get started I've created a 10-inch by 10-inch document, and the first thing we want to do is find the center point of the document. I'm just going to make a rectangle, doesn't really matter what size. We're going to align it to the center, vertical and horizontal. Command R will bring up our rulers, and we want to bring a ruler down to the horizontal center and vertical center. If we can find it, click on the shape, that should bring it up. There we go, just snap it to the center. We don't need that anymore. First thing we'll do is create the circle for our gear. We're going to create a 6-inch diameter circle, and we'll align that to the center of the document. Next thing we want to do is create the first tooth of the gear. So I'm going to make just a rectangle here, 1 inch by 1 inch. Grab your direct select, and we're going to nudge this bottom right point over to the right. So hold down shift and nudge it just a couple times to the right, same with the left. And bring the top points in just a little bit. I'm nudging it once with the shift tool. Select that shape and align it to the vertical axis in the center. Let's bring that up just a little bit. We can always adjust this later, but just want to make sure that overlaps a decent amount. So what we want to do is create the teeth of the gear that go all the way around. The easiest way to do that is to duplicate this shape on the bottom side of the circle. So we're going to make a copy of that, paste it in front with Command F. R will bring up your rotate tool, and we'll bring that center point, bring that center point into the middle of the document and just drag it all the way around. You can hold the shift key to constrain it to 45 and 90 degree angles. We actually want it at 180. Now we'll just group these two together, Command G, and come up to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Transform. We're going to have a total of 10 teeth on this gear. Right now we have a pair of 2, so that's a total of 5 pairs. Since we already have 1, we only need 4 copies. There's 360 degrees in a circle, divided by 5 pairs is an angle of 72. So just put in an angle of 72. Turn on your preview, you'll see that's what we want. And hit OK. Alright, sometimes I like to tweak this a little bit. Personally, I like it when a gear looks like it would fit with a duplicate gear of itself. So I just look at the distance between the end of this gear and the hole that another gear would fit in. Looks like right now this is a bit smaller. So I'm just going to grab this pair, hold Alt and Shift to constrain, and bring it in just a tad. I think that looks like it fits a little bit better. Can always just make a copy of this. Give me a moment while I test this out. I think that looks pretty good. That looks pretty realistic. Get rid of this here. Alright. Now we're going to punch out the middle hole of the gear. So we'll just copy the circle, paste it in front, and come to your transform window, and instead of 6 inches, let's go ahead and make it 5. Now we want to shift click the behind circle, and we're going to want to do a minus front, which is in your Pathfinder. Just this subtract or minus front button. I actually have this mapped to a keyboard key, F2 on my keyboard, and you can do that as well. Just come up to Window and Actions. So to create an action, just click this new icon here, Create New Action. You can name it something if you want. It's actually recording right now, so whatever you do, so for example, let's say we want to map this to exclude. Click on Exclude, we'll stop the record, and now you have an action that will activate the exclude under Pathfinder. All you have to do is double click on action, and you can assign it to any function key. So for me, I use Pathfinder a lot. I have unite, minus front, and intersect all map to F1, F2, F3 respectively. So if you hear me refer to any one of those F keys, that's what I'm talking about. Alright, I'm going to undo that change, close this out. So we have these two selected. We want a minus front. I'm going to hit F2 on my keyboard. Just punch that out. Now this is the easy part. We have that done. What I want to do for the inside is create several cutouts that have rounded corners. That's where it gets kind of tricky. I saw this gear and I really liked the example here. It gave me some inspiration and I wanted to try that out. First thing we'll do is get your ellipse. Just click anywhere on the document and we'll go ahead and create let's do a 1/2 inch ellipse. Just kind of keep these nice even numbers. Align that to the center on the vertical axis. And at this point, if we look back over here, here's the center point. This circle, which is what we just created, it doesn't really matter how far it is. It's kind of arbitrary, however far you want it to be for your shape. So for me, I'd say probably about somewhere in there. That looks pretty good. Now we want to get the other rounded corners. So actually, before we get going, I'm going to click this shape, the outer circle shape, and drag just a couple of rulers to the inside points. Those are going to be helpful in just a moment. So we want to duplicate this circle. Let's hold Alt or Option on your keyboard and drag that up until it intersects. And actually, okay, it looked like it was off, but we're good. I want to make sure it's snapping as you go, otherwise you're going to have problems down the line. So we want to rotate this just around that circle. Easiest way to do it is the same way we did the gear teeth. So we're just going to hold Option and duplicate it down on the bottom. Hold Shift, it'll keep it on the center. And grab both of those, Command G to group them. Go ahead and copy it for good measure. And we're going to just rotate that around the inside. I found 28 works pretty well for what we're doing. You can always experiment. That looks pretty good. I'm going to paste that copy that we just made and we're going to go the other way on it, rotate it, this time -28. So these are grouped. Let's go ahead and ungroup them, Command Shift G. Same with this, and we'll get rid of these bottom circles. We don't need those anymore. So we have the beginnings of our inner cutout shape with the rounded corners. Now the tricky part is we want to find the tangent of not only this circle but also this circle, which can be pretty tricky. And I stared at this problem for a while and then I finally came to a solution. What I found was if I just copy these over here, basically we want to find this outermost edge of both of those. So what I do is hit / on your keyboard, which will bring up the line segment tool. We're going to draw a line from the center of this circle to the center of this circle. There we go. Now I'm going to zoom in. If you notice it says 48 degrees, you might be tempted to think that Illustrator is actually giving you a precise measurement. Unfortunately, if we drag it around a little bit, you'll see it's not exactly precise. We're not getting any decimal points on that number. But for now, let's snap it to the center. We'll zoom back out, and actually if you double click on this line segment tool, it's going to give you an exact number, which is perfect. So 48.19 is the angle that this outer circle is from the other one. So just remember that number, in our case 48.19. Get rid of this line that was just for measuring. We're going to grab both of these, come up to Object, Transform, Rotate, and 48.19 is what we want. Obviously that starts rotating the other way. If it looks weird, just try negative. Now we've got them on an exactly straight line. Get your line segment tool and start the point at the intersect of the center and the bottom of the circle. Hold Shift to constrain and drag it over until it intersects again. I like to give it a color of red just to see what we're doing. So now we have that tangent we want, and we just need to put it back over here at the right rotation. So we'll select these with our object tool, our selection tool, and group them together. We don't want anything to move around, but we'll transform them back. 48.19, this time we want to go positive 48.19. And now we have the right shape, so we'll just drag it over here until it intersects. That looks right. I'm going to Command X to cut that. get rid of those and paste in front because we've already got the circle shapes. So we have the beginning of our tangent, and now what we want to do is create this shape. May not seem too complicated, but I found the easiest way is to create the right half and then mirror it over. This part will be easy, but I'm going to focus on the tough part. We actually want to find this exact point where the circle touches. Now if you remember, we previously brought a circle from the center up here and rotated it around using the center point as our axis. So for measuring purposes, if we start a line from the center, drag it to the center of this circle and let go, now grab our move tool, hold shift to constrain, that's going to go right through that point that we want. Use my eyedropper tool and grab this red color so we can see what we're doing. Essentially we just wanted that to create a nice intersect point. So what we do next is start our line from this point and hit that intersect, and I'm just going to be lazy and come around this kind of sloppily and then close off the shape. Shift X will invert the stroke to a fill, and now I just like to punch this out with rectangle using that minus front. Let's go ahead and ungroup these. I don't want those circles. Command Shift G. So select this, minus front, or F2 on my keyboard. Now we have the shape we want. Get rid of that line that was just for measuring and precision. We're going to duplicate this shape, Command F to paste in front, right click, transform, and we're going to reflect this on the vertical axis. Let's drag this over, hold shift to keep it straight, and you'll want to intersect that. Make sure that it's exactly on the center, otherwise you're going to have problems later. Let's go ahead and unite these shapes. Shift click the other shape. For me it's F1 on my keyboard. Again, all these F keys I just have mapped to the pathfinder, unite, minus front, and intersect. So now we have a shape. Let's go ahead and grab circles and that shape. F1 unites all of them, and it's looking pretty good. All we want to do now is just get this inner curve. Easy way to do that, remember our inner circle is 5 inches in diameter. So we'll just align that to the center of the document. And shift click this shape. We want to intersect these two, so that's F3 for me. And now we have our shape. So we're going to want to duplicate this around the circle. However, we're going to do 5 spokes, which means it's an odd number. Previously with the gear teeth, we could just put it right on the other side 180 degrees around and just duplicate them because we had 10 teeth, which is even. However, with 5 it's a little bit different. But what I found is you can just copy the shape, paste it in front, do the same thing, bring the center point to the middle of the document, drag this around and hold shift to constrain, and this is just going to serve as a dummy object. Essentially it's going to help us when we copy this around the middle axis. So what I do is I just give that a different color so we can differentiate. We're going to group these two together, and we're going to do the same thing with that distort and transform. Now since this is a dummy object, we actually will need to make 5 copies of this red one. Again, circle has 360 degrees divided by 5, angle of 72. Put in your angle, turn on the preview, and while it may look a bit messy, this is actually what we want. If you just pay attention to the red shapes, they're all in the right place. So go ahead and hit OK. Grab your direct select tool, select the gray object, and we're going to come up to select same fill color. I'm sorry, actually we will have to expand this first in order to be able to target individual shapes. So grab this, it's grouped together with the transform. Command Shift E will expand the appearance. Now we all have a bunch of individual shapes. So direct select tool, grab the gray, select same fill color. We have all the grays, and delete. So we have exactly what we want. Now in order to create this middle shape, we're going to make another 5-inch diameter circle. Put that in the center. I'm going to cut it, and Command B will paste it behind these. So what we want to do is now subtract these rounded shapes from the gray shape to give us our spokes. So if we hold shift and click that, F2 should minus front or subtract the shape, and there we have it. Now one problem you'll see is if we drag this out, you'll notice it has a bunch of little pieces left over on the outside. Maybe if we change that to a darker color you can see. There's a bunch of pieces on the outside still. That's kind of annoying. I mean, we've used exact numbers. I'm not quite sure why Illustrator does it, but I played around with it and it seems to consistently happen. So I'm just Command Z back. And what I like to do is grab this circle and we're just going to transform it in just right inside of that 5 inches. So for our example, 4.995 seems to do the trick. Now if we just grab both of these and F2 for minus front, we have a nice clean shape. No longer has all of those little particles. So that's basically it. From here you could make, a centerpiece or some sort of inner hub. But that's basically it. Anyway, hope that was helpful.